The hospital bracelet was still cutting into my wrist when I found the watch. Not my watch, a fancy TAG Heuer that cost more than I made in 2 months swinging a hammer. It was sitting on our kitchen counter like it belonged there, right next to car keys for a BMW I'd never seen before. "Ben, you're being paranoid," Kathy had said 3 days earlier, her voice dripping with that condescending tone I'd grown to hate. "It's just a girl's trip to Vegas. You'll survive 1 weekend without me babying you." Babying me. Right. Because recovering from hernia surgery was apparently something I was doing for attention. Never mind that she'd booked this Vegas trip the day after my surgery was scheduled, or that she'd asked the hospital about my life insurance policy instead of my condition. My phone buzzed, a text from my wife. "Hope you're feeling better." "Having amazing time. Don't wait up." The timestamp showed 3:47 a.m. Vegas was 3 hours behind us here in Massachusetts, which meant she was texting me at nearly 7 a.m. Vegas time. Either Kathy had developed a sudden interest in sunrise yoga, or she was just getting home from somewhere. I picked up the BMW keys and examined them. Still warm. That's when I heard the shower running upstairs. My name is Ben Worthen, and until last week I thought I had a pretty good life. 40 years old, foreman at Sullivan Construction, married to a successful realtor, nice house on the hill overlooking our little New England town. Sure, Kathy could be demanding, and her brother Derek, or Deke, as he insisted everyone call him, was a world-class piece of work, but I figured that was just family drama. I was wrong about a lot of things. The shower stopped running. I slipped the watch and keys into my toolbox and waited. Kathy appeared 10 minutes later, hair still damp, wearing the silk robe I'd bought her for our anniversary. "You're up early," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Couldn't sleep. Pain meds mess with my schedule." I gestured toward the counter. "Expecting someone?" She followed my gaze to where the watch and keys had been, her face flickering with something that might have been panic before settling back into practiced innocence. "What do you mean?" "Nothing. Just thought I heard a car door earlier. Must have been Mrs. Greeley's cat again. You know how he knocks over the garbage cans. Mrs. Greeley's cat had been passed for 2 years, but I just nodded. Right. The cat." Kathy busied herself making coffee, her movements sharp and efficient. "Derek's coming by later to check on you. He's worried about the surgery." Derek, her mortgage broker brother who drove a BMW and wore expensive watches. The same Derek who'd been too busy to visit me in the hospital, but apparently had time to worry about me now. How thoughtful of him. He's family, Ben. He cares about us. The way she said us made it sound like Derek and her were the unit, and I was just some guy they occasionally had to deal with, which I was starting to realize might not be far from the truth. Derek showed up around noon, all smiles and expensive cologne. He was 35, but spent enough time at the gym to look younger, with the kind of artificially white teeth that probably cost more than my truck. "Ben! How are you feeling, buddy?" He clapped me on the shoulder hard enough to make me wince. "Kathy told me you were being a real trooper about the surgery." "Yeah, well, someone had to be." Derek's smile faltered for just a second. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just that recovery's been interesting." Kathy appeared from the kitchen, carrying a tray of sandwiches like we were having some kind of family reunion. "Derek brought lunch from that deli you like downtown." I hadn't mentioned liking any deli downtown, but Derek nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, I was telling Kathy how they make those Italian subs you're always talking about." I'd never talked to Derek about Italian subs. In fact, I'd barely talked to Derek about anything beyond basic pleasantries at family gatherings. But here he was, acting like we were old friends, wearing yesterday's clothes and looking like he hadn't slept much. "That's really thoughtful," I said. "Both of you." We sat in the sunroom, Derek and Kathy on the wicker love seat, me in the recliner that was supposed to help with my recovery. They kept exchanging glances when they thought I wasn't looking, little smiles and raised eyebrows that felt like a private conversation I wasn't invited to join. "So," Derek said, biting into his sandwich, "Kathy tells me you're going to be off work for another week or two. Doctor's orders, can't lift anything heavy for a while. That must be frustrating for a guy like you. All that pent-up energy, nowhere to go." Kathy laughed, a sound that seemed forced. "Ben's been keeping busy. Haven't you, honey? Lots of reading, catching up on shows. Actually, I've been doing some organizing. Going through old files, cleaning out drawers. Amazing what you find when you start really looking." Derek's sandwich stopped halfway to his mouth. "What kind of stuff?" "Oh, you know. Old receipts, phone bills, credit card statements. Really makes you think about where the money goes, who's calling who, that sort of thing." The silence that followed was thick enough to cut with a knife. Kathy set down her sandwich and stood up abruptly. "I should check on the laundry." After she left, Derek leaned forward, his friendly mask slipping. "Look, Ben, I know recovery can be stressful. Sometimes guys in your situation start imagining things, getting paranoid. It's totally normal." "What kind of things would I be imagining?" "I don't know. Just things. Maybe you should talk to someone. A professional." I smiled. "That's good advice, Derek. Really good advice. Maybe I will." That evening, after Derek left and Kathy disappeared for what she called a quick grocery run that lasted 3 hours, I called my old friend Eddie, who owned King's Tap, the local dive bar where construction guys and other working folks went to drink away their problems. "Eddie, it's Ben. You got a minute?" "Sure, man. How you feeling? Heard you went under the knife." "I'm fine. Listen, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me." "Shoot. You seen my wife around the bar lately? Maybe with her brother Derek?" Eddie was quiet for a long moment. "Ben, you sure you want to know this?" My stomach dropped. "Yeah, I'm sure." "They've been in a few times over the past month, usually late, after the dinner crowd clears out. They sit in that back booth, you know the one, real cozy." "How cozy?" "Cozy enough that people have been talking, and Ben, I don't think they're discussing family business, if you know what I mean." I knew exactly what he meant. "Thanks, Eddie. I owe you one." "You don't owe me nothing. Just be careful, okay? Whatever you're thinking of doing, be smart about it." After I hung up, I sat in my recliner staring at the ceiling. My wife was cheating on me with her own brother-in-law. The woman I'd been married to for 12 years was sneaking around with Derek while I was laid up recovering from surgery. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was how stupid they thought I was. The next morning I called Nick, one of the younger guys from my construction crew. Nick was 26, single, and had the kind of tech skills that came naturally to his generation. "Nick, I need a favor, and I need you to keep it between us." "Sure thing, boss. What's up? Can you help me set up some kind of tracking thing? Like if I wanted to know where someone was going?" "You mean like a GPS tracker?" "Yeah, I can hook you up. They sell them at the electronics store, totally legal as long as it's your own car you're tracking." "It's my wife's car. Technically, both our names are on the title." "Then you're golden. Want me to come over and help you install it?" "Yeah. And Nick? Bring your laptop. I might need help recovering some deleted files." Nick arrived an hour later with a bag full of electronic gadgets and the enthusiasm of someone who'd been waiting his whole life for a spy mission. "This is so cool," he said, crawling under Kathy's Honda with a magnetic GPS tracker. "It's like we're private detectives or something." "Just don't get too excited. This isn't a game." While Nick worked on the car, I showed him Kathy's laptop. She'd left it open on the kitchen table, probably figuring I was too drugged up or technologically challenged to do anything with it. "Okay," Nick said, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "Looks like she deleted a bunch of text messages, but they're still in the cache. Give me a minute." What he found made my blood boil. Message after message between Kathy and Derek, going back months. Not the kind of messages you send to your brother-in-law. Can't wait to feel you inside me again. Your husband is such a loser. How did you stand being married to him for so long? After his surgery, he'll be laid up for weeks. We'll have plenty of time together. I love you, baby. We just need to be patient a little longer. Nick whistled low. Boss, I'm really sorry. This is messed up. Keep reading. The messages got worse. Plans for weekend getaways, discussions about my life insurance policy, jokes about my job, my friends, my appearance. They'd been laughing at me for months while I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for Kathy's designer clothes and Derek's expensive dinners. But the worst message was the most recent one, sent just 2 days ago. He's getting suspicious. Maybe it's time to make this official. I'm tired of pretending to care about him. Soon, baby. Just a little longer and we can stop sneaking around. I printed everything. That afternoon, while Kathy was at what she claimed was a real estate showing, I followed the GPS tracker to Derek's condo downtown. Her car was parked in his assigned spot like it belonged there. I sat in my truck across the street for 2 hours watching. At 4:30, they came out together, Kathy wearing a dress I'd never seen before, and Derek with his arm around her waist like they were a real couple. They drove to a restaurant across town, the kind of place with cloth napkins and wine lists. The kind of place Derek could afford on his mortgage broker salary, but I couldn't on mine. I followed at a distance and watched them through the window. They were holding hands across the table, feeding each other bites of food, acting like teenagers in love. Kathy was laughing at something Derek said. Her face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in years. She never looked at me like that anymore. My phone buzzed with a text from Kathy. Showing is running late. Don't wait dinner for me. I texted back. No problem. Hope you're having fun. Her response came immediately. Just work stuff. Boring real estate talk. I took pictures of them through the restaurant window. The confrontation happened 3 days later, on a Saturday morning when Kathy thought I was still asleep upstairs. I heard Derek's BMW pull into our driveway and crept to the window to watch. They were all over each other before he even got to the front door, kissing like they hadn't seen each other in months instead of hours. Derek's hands were everywhere, and Kathy was making soft sounds I remembered from when we were first married. I gave them 10 minutes to get comfortable, then walked downstairs in my bathrobe. They were on the couch in the living room, Derek's shirt already off, Kathy's dress hiked up around her waist. They froze when they saw me, like deer caught in headlights. Well, I said, my voice surprisingly calm, this is awkward. Kathy scrambled to pull her dress down, her face flushing red. Derek grabbed his shirt and held it in front of his chest, like that would somehow make this less obvious. Ben, Kathy started, this isn't what it looks like. Really? Because it looks like my wife is about to have intimacy with her brother-in-law on the couch I paid for. Derek stood up, trying to look tough despite being half naked. Look, man, we can explain. I'm sure you can. You're both very creative. I've been reading your text messages. The color drained from both their faces. That's right, I continued, pulling out the printed messages. All of them. The plans, the jokes about me, the discussions about my life insurance. Real romantic stuff. Kathy's shock was quickly replaced by anger. You went through my private messages? That's a violation of my privacy. Your privacy? You're screwing your brother-in-law in my living room and you're worried about privacy? Derek stepped forward, puffing out his chest. Maybe if you'd been a better husband, she wouldn't have needed to find someone else. That's when I lost it. I'd been calm up until that moment, almost detached, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. But hearing Derek blame me for their betrayal flipped a switch I didn't know I had. Get out, I said, my voice low and dangerous. Both of you, get out of my house right now. This is my house too, Kathy shot back. My name is on the deed. Then I guess we'll let the lawyers figure that out. Along with everything else. Derek was pulling on his shirt, finally realizing this wasn't going to end with apologies and awkward family dinners. "Come on, Kathy. Let's go to my place." "No," I said. "Derek can go to his place. Kathy lives here. With me. Her husband." "Not for long," Kathy spat. "I want a divorce, Ben. I should have done this years ago." "Fine. But until the papers are signed, you sleep in the guest room. And Derek doesn't come back here. Ever." Derek started to say something, but I cut him off. "I mean it, Derek. You step foot on my property again, and I'll call the police. I've got plenty of evidence of what's been going on here." After they left together, I sat in my empty house and tried to figure out what to do next. I'd known this moment was coming since I found the watch, but I still wasn't prepared for how it would feel. Betrayed, humiliated, angry beyond words, but also, strangely, relieved. At least, now I knew the truth. The next few days were a blur of lawyers and paperwork. Kathy moved in with Derek officially, claiming she needed space to think. She hired the most expensive divorce attorney in town, probably figuring she'd take me for everything I was worth. She was wrong. See, the thing about being married to a realtor is that you learn things about property law, about assets and debts, and how to protect yourself. And the thing about being a construction foreman is that you know people, contractors, electricians, plumbers, people who see things and hear things and remember them. It turns out Derek had been skimming money from his mortgage clients for months, inflating fees and pocketing the difference. It also turns out that Kathy had been helping him launder that money through fake real estate transactions. I didn't have to dig very hard to find the evidence. Nick helped me trace the digital trail, and Eddie introduced me to a private investigator who specialized in financial fraud. Within a week, I had enough evidence to destroy both of them. But I didn't want to destroy them. I wanted something better. I wanted justice. The town festival happens every October, right in the center of our little downtown. Everyone comes out, families, couples, teenagers, old-timers. It's the kind of Norman Rockwell small-town event that makes people feel good about living here. This year, I had a special surprise planned. I'd spent 2 weeks preparing, with Nick's help and Eddie's connections. We'd printed flyers, set up a sound system, and arranged for a very public display that would give the whole town something to talk about for years. Derek and Kathy showed up together, holding hands and acting like they were the perfect couple. They'd been telling people that I was having a breakdown over the divorce, that I was making up stories about their relationship to make myself feel better. They looked happy, confident, like they'd won. That lasted about 10 minutes. The first sign of trouble was when Mrs. Greeley, our elderly neighbor, walked up to them with a stack of papers. "Kathy, dear," she said in her sweet old lady voice, "I think you dropped these." The papers were copies of the text messages between Kathy and Derek, the ones where they talked about me like I was garbage and planned their affair while I was recovering from surgery. Kathy's face went white. "Where did you get these?" "Oh, they're all over town, dear. Someone's been very busy. That someone was me, with help from Nick and half the guys from my construction crew. We'd spent the morning putting copies of the messages on every car windshield, every bulletin board, every surface we could find. By the time Derek realized what was happening, it was too late. People were reading the messages, pointing and whispering. The whole town was finding out exactly what kind of people they really were. But that was just the beginning. The real show started when the police arrived. Detective Martinez walked up to Derek with a warrant, right there in front of everyone. "Derek Saunders, you're under arrest for mortgage fraud and money laundering." Derek tried to run, but he didn't get far. 3 officers tackled him next to the pumpkin display, sending orange gourds flying everywhere. Kathy started screaming that this was all my fault, that I was framing them, that everyone should mind their own business. But by then, people were looking at her like she was something they'd scrape off their shoe. The private investigator I'd hired walked up to me as they were putting Derek in the police car. "Nice work," he said. "Clean, legal, and absolutely devastating. They'll both be facing serious charges. What about the divorce? With this evidence, she'll be lucky to get anything. Adultery is still grounds for fault-based divorce in Massachusetts, and financial crimes don't play well with judges. I watched as they drove Derek away, and as Kathy stood alone in the middle of the festival, surrounded by people who now knew exactly who she really was. She looked at me across the crowd, her face twisted with rage and humiliation. I smiled and waved. Justice, it turns out, tastes better than revenge.